You're listening to the Save the Date podcast, where we talk all things weddings, jewellery and romance. With love from Cullen Jewellery.
Hello and welcome back to the Save the Date podcast. I'm Sheridan.
And I'm Juliette, and we are so happy you're here.
Have you ever wanted to make your wedding even more of an event than the typical one-day celebration? If so, we are going to give you our guide to having a multi-day wedding or a wedding weekend. And if not, maybe this episode will make you crave a wedding that lasts a long weekend and not just a day.
So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into the episode.
We wanted to start by looking back at the tradition of having a multi-day wedding. This is something that many cultures do, with each day having an individual ceremony or celebration. So let's take a quick look at a traditional Indian wedding to start with this generally lasting around 3 days. However, not every day, thankfully, will involve the entire wedding party or guest list. So typically on the first day, and if I pronounce these wrong, I am very, very sorry. The first day is what is called a Ganesha Puja. And this is a ceremony where good luck is bestowed upon the married couple and their families, essentially just so that any obstacles that they may face throughout their marriage are destroyed before they even get a chance to arise. So this is, pretty much just with the couple and their immediate family members. So like their parents, their siblings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And is, yes, a very beautiful ceremony on the first day. The second day is what's called the Mendi. And this is where the bride and the female friends, bridal party, family members, this is where they have the henna inked onto their skin.
I've seen this.
Yes. So this is another really beautiful ceremony, celebration, and it is extremely detailed. I was looking this up and it can take up to 10 hours.
Yeah, that's actually amazing.
Which is like a really big day.
It's like literally body art.
Yeah.
Like painting something.
Yeah.
Almost.
So they get essentially their hands, wrists, both like their palms as well, and their feet.
Yeah.
So
pretty.
yeah, so pretty. The next celebration that they have is called the Sangeet. And this is a big celebration with all of their wedding guests, essentially everyone that's invited to the wedding. And this is to introduce the families to each other and also pretty much just conducted to just relish in the happiness and joy for the couple in the lead up to their marriage. And then finally on either a third or fourth day is the wedding ceremony and the reception in itself.
Yeah. I feel I would love to go to an Indian wedding one day. Like, I just feel like, I mean, I don't know that much about it and the history and all of that, but from what I've seen, like little aspects of it, it's the most stunning, amazing thing ever. Like, even just the outfits everything is just so pretty and amazing and colourful. And I would love to experience that one day. Yeah,
me too. I think it would be so incredible. And just like, I feel like each ceremony that they have is just like so heavily like spiritual is not necessarily the word that I'm looking for, but like just so beautiful. And they are obviously like generally based around spiritual or religious beliefs. But yeah, even for somebody that is not too familiar with the religious side of things, it's just like such a beautiful event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, obviously this is heavily influenced by the Indian culture, tradition and their religious beliefs. However, you can still take inspiration from this and then kind of create your own wedding weekend or multi-day wedding. So that is kind of what we want to focus on for this episode, is how to plan a wedding weekend, because it is quite different to just planning a one-day event. There's a lot more that has to go into it.
And I'm quite excited about this topic because my older sister is currently planning her wedding and it is going to be a 3-day event.
Oh, that's
Only
so
because she has chosen to do a destination wedding. She wants to get married in Italy. So I think because of that reason, she wants to make it a bit more of a 3-day thing rather than just everyone flying over for one day.
Yeah.
I feel like to kind of beef it up a little bit, they're doing a 3-day event. That was also the package done by the venue. It was a 3-day thing. So, yeah, I'm not really sure if that's maybe a thing overseas as well. I don't know.
I feel like they are like they tend to be more common with destination weddings, like for that same reason.
Yeah.
Couples are like, we're having everyone fly over, we may as well make the most of it.
Of everything, yeah.
And like celebrate for as long as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you don't have to be having a destination wedding to have a wedding weekend.
Multi-day.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when you're first thinking about whether or not you want to do more than one day event for your wedding, I guess one of the first things you want to think about is the budget.
Yeah.
Because obviously doing a 3-day event or even 2-day is going to be more expensive than just the one wedding day. So yeah, I suppose kind of jotting down what those 2 extra or 1 extra days may look like, and I guess breaking down the budget from there is a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. Like you've got to allocate. Once you've got your total budget that you want to spend, you need to be able to allocate that budget into each individual day based on how you want to be spending them. And although, like, if you think about a multi-day wedding, like chances are it is going to be a little bit more costly than a one-day wedding, depending on how you do plan to celebrate. But obviously with everything, there's always ways that you can do it that is a bit more budget friendly. So let's have a look at, I guess, a traditional, we're going to do 4 days just to, I guess, give you a whole big overview. So if you're allocating your budget, you would be looking at day 1, which would be your welcome party. So you could do welcome drinks. You might want to do a winery tour depending on where your venue is, a pool party, a bonfire, a barbecue. You might want to visit a local attraction. Mm-hmm. On day 2 is when you would have your rehearsal dinner. This and the welcome party can be, I guess, combined to just have your rehearsal dinner and kind of make it a bit of a welcome party. But if you are wanting to separate them, that is always an option. Then you would have your wedding ceremony, and then on the final day, day 4, would be your farewell, which might be a breakfast or brunch. It might be another pool day, a hike, going to another local attraction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're thinking for my sister's wedding as well. Or I think her, first day will be the welcome dinner / rehearsal dinner. And then, the middle day will be her ceremony. And then that 4th day will kind of be the, there's a name for it. What's the day after?
Recovery?
Yes, the recovery lunch.
Yeah.
So, we're doing a recovery. I think it's like a pool day / lunch that they've got.
That's really nice.
They're going to do.
I think even if you are not doing like a multi-day wedding event, having like a recovery breakfast or brunch just with like your family is like such a cool idea. It's something we did after our wedding, and we just went to a cafe and like everyone just bought their own breakfast. Like it doesn't have to be something that you are forking out extra money for. Yeah, you can just go to a local cafe, sit and debrief with everyone.
I feel like, that's like the fun part is just debriefing about the night, because I feel like as the bride and groom, not that you miss a lot, but like it's fun to hear the stories from the perspective of your guests and your closest family, because obviously they're going to have a very different view of the day than what you would have had.
Yeah. And
so it's nice.
You do kind of miss some things, like especially if you're not doing a first look and your photos are during cocktail hour, you miss all of cocktail hour. So, it's nice to speak to your guests and be like, oh, did you play any of the games that we had set up? Like, did you do this that we had set up for cocktail hour? So, it's definitely nice to have like that sit down with whoever you want, whether it's your closest family or your closest friends, the bridal party, anything like that, and just debrief on the day. Okay, so the next thing that you need to do is to choose your location and your venue. So with a multi-day wedding especially, you need to consider the accessibility for your guests. So if this might be, booking hotel room blocks, or if you have like a smaller guest list, or, if it's just going to be your closest family and friends, you might want to look at booking like a big Airbnb house or something that has 15 rooms and everyone can kind of stay in the one place. The main reason for this is that people are less likely to attend like multiple days of something if they're going to have to be traveling back and forth. And, it's going to be hard for them to get there and back. They'll most likely then just want to come for the one day of the ceremony, or just for one night of the like rehearsal dinner or something.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really big consideration to make. And I think the other thing as well is if you're doing a 3-day thing where maybe that first and last day are just dinners or lunches and that's all you have planned, maybe consider what else there is for your guests to do in that area. Because if you're planning to have it at, let's say, a winery, which is an hour or two out of the city, and all your guests are staying down there, but literally the only thing to do there is the winery.
Yeah.
And you only are catering for dinner and lunch on that first and second day, your guests might be kind of stuck, twiddling their thumbs, being like, what do we do the entire day while we wait for this dinner? So, I think that's also just another consideration. Mm-hmm. And like, you may be able to set up special things with your venue for people to do during the day, like things that the venue wouldn't normally offer. But you don't want your guests just kind of feeling like, they're not doing anything all day and then they're just kind of hanging around waiting for the event at night because there's nothing else to do in the area.
Yeah. Even like considering that for the wedding day as well, because even though like as a bride, you're very busy on your wedding day and usually up very early with your bridesmaids getting makeup and everything done, your guests like don't need to be at the venue until like 4 o'clock if you're having a 4:30 ceremony. So definitely is important to make sure there's other things that they can do. The next thing that is really important is that you're open and honest with your guests about how much they will actually have to be paying for. So whether it's, accommodation, transportation, if there's any dinners that they'll need to pay for, like for example, like we were saying before, if you're having a breakfast the day after the wedding, if that's going to be at a cafe that they'll just be buying their own food for, just be honest with them that they will be having to do that and that's not coming out of your budget.
And I think the biggest one for that is accommodation because like I suppose a dinner or a lunch people might be like, oh, okay, like whatever, maybe, $30 a head or whatever it may be. But accommodation can usually be maybe a couple hundred. So that's, I think, something to let your guests know well in advance. Like I could see how you could maybe a week or two out give your guests a heads up being like, oh, where, you have to buy your own lunch or whatever the next day. But definitely with accommodation, I think that's something you want to be upfront about from the very start.
Yeah, 100%. The next point that we have is, will you be hiring a wedding planner? So we have always said planning a wedding is like having a second full-time job. So planning a multi-day wedding is probably going to be even more work. Mm-hmm. Yes. So if your budget allows and, or you even just don't have time to do it yourself, absolutely consider a wedding planner. They will be your absolute best friend throughout the whole process. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if maybe if you can't afford or it's not in your budget to have a wedding planner, having someone you can maybe just consult at one point just to point you in the right direction, that also might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, or potentially finding someone who has had a wedding with a 3-day event, just experience. Again, that can be a really big help and time saver for you if you can't, if a full-on wedding planner isn't in the budget.
Yeah. And also on that kind of note as well, with when you're considering your budget and a wedding planner, don't necessarily rule them out just because like you've got a smaller budget. Contact like a few anyway, see what they can offer because they might be able to just offer you like a monthly check-in to see how you're going and then they can give you a little bit of insight. But also they may like charge a large chunk of your budget up front, but then in the long run save you a lot of money on everything else because they do have like the connections in the industry and the knowledge to do things a little bit cheaper than you might be able to on your own. All right, so now kind of moving on to the fun stuff, which is your itinerary. So figuring out what on earth you're actually going to be doing for the 3 or 4 days. So something to be mindful of here is to try and space out your activities so that your guests don't feel overwhelmed or stressed. And it's not like at 9 a.m. we've got to be here and then at 11 a.m. we've got to be here and then 1 p.m. here. Give them some time like in between events to just chill out. And that's where the importance of having a venue that is accessible and has other things to do nearby is important because you kind of have to treat it a little bit like your guests are also having a little mini holiday and they can then still do things that they want to as well.
Yeah, and I think having the breaks in between events or activities, I think, is a big one because like I know for myself, like if you're back to back all day and then you have to go to a dinner for the wedding, it's like too much. You want to just like chill out. And yeah, I think definitely, like you said, approaching it like a mini holiday for people is kind of gives you that right mindset of how to plan out a day. If you're thinking like, oh, what would I want to do on a holiday? Well, I'd, something fun in the morning, but like maybe like a nice relaxing lunch and then ease into the afternoon, do something else. And then you've got that time, before dinner to get ready, have a shower, relax, and then you've got the event at night.
Yeah, because I think as well, like for me, if I've got like so much on, I'm not present and enjoying myself at like the dinner. If I've had a massive like full-on busy day, I'm like tired and can't wait to get back to the hotel room to go to sleep. So yeah, that's definitely like important as well, because if you give your guests the time to chill out and do their own thing, then they're going to be able to reset and come back for the next event refreshed and enjoying themselves.
Absolutely.
So the next thing is to send your save the dates and your invites early. So you want to treat this as if it's a destination wedding, even if like it's not and it's only, half an hour down the road. But yeah, send everything out early so that your guests have plenty of time to make their plans, book any accommodation, travel, things like that. And like you were saying earlier, so that they know early if they are going to be having to pay for their own accommodation and things like that.
Yeah. Even just on their end to block out 3 days in a row or 4 days in a row is obviously a lot more of a commitment for your guests rather than just one afternoon/night of a wedding. So yeah, you want to make sure that your guests are keeping that entire weekend free and they're not just later on turning around being like, oh, I can only make it to the wedding day. I can't make it to the 2 others. Sorry, that sort of thing. You want to give them plenty of notice to keep it free.
And then this also gives you enough time to have your RSVPs back early to finalize your guest list and just make any final, amendments to your plans. Because, the last thing that you want is for all of a sudden it's like 2 weeks before the wedding and you think everybody's coming to everything and then suddenly people are like, oh, no, we can actually only make it to the wedding ceremony and now you've like overbooked all of your other events.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so moving on, the next thing that you need to be mindful of is how you're going to document the weekend. So generally for just like a 1-day wedding ceremony reception, you would have a photographer and most likely a videographer, but you have to kind of consider, is that what you want to have for the full 3 or 4 days, or do you just want something smaller or even not anything for the other days that you're having? So you might want to have a photographer and a videographer there for literally the whole weekend documenting the whole thing. But there's other options as well. So you might have at one of the events like a photo booth or disposable film cameras. I think would be really cool for like at the welcome party.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just like something a little bit more chill so your guests aren't like also getting followed around.
I love the film cameras because I've been to a few parties and even weddings as well that they've had the film cameras and it's just so funny when they post the albums when they get them developed, because I think now when you get them developed you can get digital versions of all the photos as well, and it's just so funny seeing all the photos that come out because it's the most random thing ever of people who've just taken a camera and it's like the most weirdest thing ever.
And I do feel like people tend to be like a bit more silly with the like film cameras versus just like an iPhone camera where they're like just posing, whereas someone sees a film camera and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what's the weirdest pose that I can possibly do?
Yeah, for sure.
And then on this same note is consider how you want your guests to share their photos with you either after or during the weekend. Because for something like this, you want to be able to get everybody's photos. I'm sure everyone will be taking photos, little videos, things like that throughout the entire weekend. And you don't want to just like go along and literally never see any of those videos and photos.
Yeah. I went to a wedding, I think it was maybe a year ago now, and on their little wedding favors, so I think they had a little bottle of alcohol as like the wedding favour, and it had a little tag on it with a QR code that you could scan and then upload the photos. So then everyone could see the photos.
Yeah.
Not just the couple.
Oh, that's
cool.
Like
everyone could see the album.
That's really, really cool. But yeah, there's things like that. Apps, you could just do like a Google Drive if you're not wanting to do anything like fancy. Or I feel like these are a little bit outdated, but you can do an Instagram hashtag if you want to. I feel like that is kind of very 2017.
Yes.
But
yeah.
It might just be an easy way like for everyone.
Yeah, to see things.
Mm-hmm. And then the last thing that I think is really important for having, I guess, a big wedding event is to give your guests something to say welcome and also to say thank you. So I would say to consider giving your guests like a little welcome bag on arrival, just with like could just be like a couple of chocolate bars, some lollies, maybe like a muesli bar and some chips, so that they've got like a snack to make it through a couple of days, and even like things to just like help them get through a weekend away. So you could give them like travel sized items, a map of the area, a list of a fan if it's hot, yeah, thongs or something, so that they can take their heels off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, like a list of things that they can do in the area, restaurants, and then also I would say an itinerary for the weekend is super important.
Oh, yes.
Even if you've had that like given to them on their invite or sent to them digitally, I think it's really good on the actual day that they get there to get an itinerary that says at this time on this day, this is what we're doing, and just a little bit of information if you're going to be transporting them there, if it's at the venue. And then I would also add in that a welcome note, and I would personalize this, I think. It doesn't have to be anything like major, but just to say welcome, thank you so much, we appreciate that you're coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that being like handwritten and personalised for each guest is important.
Yeah. Again, this same wedding I went to about a year ago, I suppose it's a similar, it was just the one night, so it's a little different, but on their little place cards, each person had an individual note. So I think mine said something about being a social media manager, like something like that. And yeah, everyone had their own little individual, like funny, like one sentence. And like that was really a really cute touch.
Yeah, that's really special. And just like makes your guests feel like so much more.
Yeah.
Like, not that they're not wanted without that.
Yeah.
But just like very appreciated.
Yes.
Like their presence is really appreciated on the day.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Save the Date podcast. We hope you learned something new, and if you're currently planning your wedding, congratulations, good luck, and have fun.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you follow or subscribe and leave us a review wherever it is that you're listening.
Make sure you come and connect with us on our socials at the Save the Date podcast and join our Facebook group, the Save the Date community. We hope you have a wonderful day or night, and we'll be back with another episode next week. Bye.
Bye.